Hey everybody, welcome to Geeksvana. Thank you very much for bearing with us as our start was delayed by 15 minutes whilst Ian from Mads Tech watched me have a little meltdown there, a little panic. We have a really great system here, and I've invested heavily because of all the other stuff that we do off. We have a production company that we run from the studios as well, and so that we've got some cool tech, and we've got a really nice audio system here which is separate to everything, and it basically allows me to have complete control of the audio from multiple guests and everything else like that, and not have silly echoes and all that kind of stuff. And for some reason OBS has decided it just does not want to recognize it tonight. It's been absolutely fine ever since I purchased the wonderful device. In fact, Ian's bought the next generation of it as well, and yeah, but we're here. So I've kind of put us through an aux feed. So if the audio is a little bit scratchier than it normally is, I do apologise. Although the clip I recorded to test it seemed to be okay. So let me know in the chat, everybody, if the audio is okay. So tonight we're going to be talking about DJI drones. I fly them a lot. I really, really do like the brand. You know, I'm just as critical as anybody else of DJI when they get their faults and when they have their problems. But overall, I'm a very happy, satisfied customer, frankly. So we're going to work out which are the best of these drones, and we're going to tier list them. And I'm joined by this man to do it. It's Ian from Mads Tech. Hello, sir. How are you?
I am fantastic. Tired, but fantastic.
Yes.
It's been a busy week, and I'm feeling it, to say the least.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you there, actually. And I'm just checking one thing to make sure that's working correctly. Yes.
It's a lot of effort.
In fact,
setting bridges on fire.
I will just show my lovely other half, Joanne, as many of you will know her, has just messaged me to let me know that the streams. Oh, come on, can I get the? There we go. That it sounds good, honey.
Good.
Isn't she good? Isn't she good actually texting in whilst I'm live
I need a Joanne.
Just my
wife doesn't care.
Yeah, it's only because I called her crying, frankly. Yes, so tonight we're going to be talking about ranking the tier list. And I'll bring the tier list up in a moment, which did take a bit of work to get together. But how are you, sir? First of all, before we jump into all of that.
I am fantastic. Overall, things have been amazing, just crazy busy. Yes. I think there's a point at times, we spoke about this before, where everything's happening at once. It's like today, there's like 5 boxes turned up that I've said we're going to talk about. And I'm like, oh my God, when am I going to be doing that? And then there's stuff that's on the bench here now. You know, I got goggles in front of me that don't exist yet, they do. There's all sorts going on, so it's busy, it's good, it's all good, but it's all about trying to get it all done and not worry about if I don't.
Yeah, and that's a weird stress, that, isn't it? The sort of all the good stuff starts. And I've literally, I haven't put anything out this week for all sorts of reasons. But I've got, I think, 20 videos in the edit at the moment, and I just don't want to let them out until they're ready anymore. You know, I don't want to rush stuff out. I want it to be the little thing I want it to be. Just a shout out, Andy Cortez, member for 24 months. Thank you, Andy. I really appreciate it. Thank you as well to Matty's Drone World for becoming a member just before we came on air, and Sam and Rose FPV, member for 9 months. We've got some really exciting member announcements coming in the next couple of weeks, actually, as far as what we're doing with the whole channel membership side of things. So keep an eye out for that. We're very, very excited about that, frankly. Mads Tech, your channel, there's a link in the description. Please, everybody, if you for some strange reason don't have Ian, then go down there and subscribe.
Everyone should have an Ian. I'm available to order. I have a little one of me. You can order online. It'll come in, and it just throws abuse at manufacturers all day long.
That's it, exactly. So... and you know, to say, they always say you need a niche. And sometimes I hear people talking about niching on a niche on a niche. Well, I think just lately you have become a niche of a niche of a niche of a niche that talks about a certain niche of that niche. Because,
but it's worked, and that's the fun. And the irony is, and actually here's a real funny irony. All I've done is gone to the core of what I am about personally and what I do. And the irony is, if I look back, I made everything I did far more mainstream because you think that's what you've got to do. But the reality is, what I've done is allowed myself to creep actually back into the world I want to be in, and a load of people have followed me through the door at the same time.
Exactly. And for anybody that's wondering what we're talking about the whole walk snail, Avatar, DJI, Cadix. No, I wouldn't call it controversy, but the whole thing that's been going down, as it were, and it's getting juicier. But you need to go across to Ian's channel and have a look at this. He has actually released a video showing the goggles that don't exist that he has to his left. It's an interesting one regarding the chipset. I think that's going to be a bigger story as it unfolds.
It is, and it's. I think, you know, someone said something to me the other day. You know, my expertise has become digital video, and actually, it always has. I've covered it more than anyone. Yeah. But what I never really did was really bolt down on it and double down on it, and that's what I've now done. In the last sort of 12 months, we've gone digital video systems, and we started it in DJI. You know, the stuff we'll talk about today. That has actually moved into the FPV world. What has made actually many of the drones we'll talk about today as good as they are is the technology that DJI uses for their digital video systems, because it's light years ahead of everyone else, or at least has been. And that has really now filtered through to FPV. And what you're seeing is that excitement move from off-the-shelf drones to the hobby and things like that.
Exactly.
It's good. It's really good. So it's been good for the channel. It's been good for everything, and it's allowed us to grow a little bit, which is always a good thing as well.
Exactly. Just very quickly, a shout out to Gary Brant's Arrows, who's in the chat. I did notice, Gary, that you've become a new channel member yesterday, I think that was. So thank you very much for that. So I really appreciate it. Right. Shall we get on to tier ranking some DJI drones? Look at this. It's a tier list. We almost.
I like coming on Sean's show because it's like a professional YouTube channel.
A professional YouTube channel that has to delay his start by 15 minutes because he can't get his microphone to work.
That's live streaming. That's normal. That's no one cares about that.
Look at this. We look like a cool YouTube Twitch channel with our tier list up, etc. And
it does.
Yes. Now we are not so old, myself and Ian, that I had to explain what this tier list thing is to Ian beforehand, and I will not listen to anybody who tells us that we are old and didn't know what was going on. Fly Zone Drone, good to see you. Thank you for becoming a member of the Geek Squad. I really appreciate it. I really, really do appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. So what we're going to do is we're going to be taking drones and tier listing them, essentially. So we're going to, the Phantom one, we're going to say it could be special, or so therefore up by itself, and that's going to be a difficult one to get to tonight. Then you've got the ranking of A, B, C, D, guess what, E and F below that as well. And we're going to see, I'm going to be interested to see if any end up down this end, actually, down the EF end, because of course, DJI are a pretty good drone, frankly. And this is, of course, us looking back on these drones as they sit now. So this isn't sort of, at launch, because perhaps Mavic 3 would have been down there at launch. But actually, I think now it's climbing that ladder pretty quickly with these updates, etc. And you could argue that with the Mini 3 as well. That's just had a very, very good update.
Yeah, big update today. I saw that. Big
very,
update.
Very exciting.
Seems to be their new way forward now, doesn't it? We released the product half finished, and then 3 to 6 months, we'll give you a big update, which will get it there.
Yeah, exactly. It's awesome. And Salmon Rose has just become a patron on Ian's channel. Thank you, Salmon Rose. Really appreciate
Thank you, mate.
Yeah,
that must be the notification I just had on my phone.
That's awesome.
Thank you, mate.
And 107 Drones, thank you as well for becoming a member of the Geek Squad. Do you know, I've just had that new notification flash up telling me to insert an ad on my live stream. I'm not doing it, YouTube. I'm sorry. Have you started having those yet?
No, what's that?
It's a little new button that will start flashing at you during your live shows this week that says you could put an advert in right now. It's like, we've been on 10 minutes, but we've not added any value or said anything.
Oh, well, I don't use mid-rolls anyway, so I wonder if I will get, I bet I'll still get the
mid-rolls, of course, don't happen during live streams, which is one of the reasons why I love live streams, but that's actually bringing them in, which I'm not a massive fan of, but although I've probably now been delisted from every possible algorithm for saying anything negative about
just
them.
saying the word, don't even talk about the algorithm.
That's it. This video has now been demonetized, etc. So we're going to run through them, and whilst we run through them, have some little videos to play whilst we talk about these little drones. And we're going to start with why not the Phantom One? I didn't go back as far as the F550s and the flywheels,
F40s,
and, all that kind of thing. I've started with the first real production drone, as it were. And this is actually an official release video from DJI. For the Phantom One. This was actually one showing how to do this new wonderful thing of very simply replacing propellers, which seems bizarre now with the quick release ones, doesn't it? For anyone that's just a consumer flyer as well. And
what's he doing? He's taking the screws out.
Yeah, what's this thing about undoing? And I think this is actually to switch it over to the quick release ones. But the Phantom One was, of course, we don't have any, incredible spec list because, of course, it didn't have its own camera and it didn't have a gimbal and blah, 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 blah. It is what you would now. I think if someone brought this drone out now, of course, because we're talking about January 2013 here, they would probably get laughed at, let alone...
Look at that. DJI is telling you to solder inside your drone.
I love this video.
I cannot believe that exists.
Yeah. Could you imagine that? Look at this. Look, with the Zenmuse H3 2D going in there.
This is the gimbal installation video. This is.
Oh, is it?
I know what this is.
Excellent.
Yes,
I thought it was the props one actually, but yeah, it makes much more sense.
It is a great drone, and I think what is great about this drone is what it started, and that is the whole Phantom line. Because what we have here was DJI taking their NASA One flight controller. You can see it, front and center there in the middle, and wrapping it in insulation tape. I don't remember that being normal. And
that's a bit strange.
Taking their DIY components, and putting it in a turnkey platform, and that's what they did. And this triggered the drone revolution.
Is the tape because you've just popped out one of those and now it's technically not waterproof?
Yeah, it could be.
Might be to protect those from the sort of
I
ingress.
think it's probably to hold the wire. Oh, they don't want it touching anything by the look of it. So, but the reality is, this was the beginning.
Yes.
This was the start of the drone revolution.
Exactly. This is back in the day where you would have to strap this switch over. You'd have to strap a GoPro or something underneath it, and you would just have to guess what kind of footage you got, basically.
And the thing of this is, it's actually made from off-the-shelf components. They just built it for you, basically. It was the first factory-built off-the-shelf drone. But if you look, everything is sort of plug and play. It's what we had in the flame wheel that came before it. And it had... Back then, they had an agreement with GoPro where the GoPro would be compatible with the gimbal, and you could control the GoPro from the gimbal as well, and that was great, and it was the beginning.
Could you imagine having videos, and this is an official DJI video still on the Phantom One spec lists video list. Could you imagine having this now for you want to upgrade your Mavic 3?
Yeah, we want you to do this. That's fantastic.
Just open it up. It sounds completely sane thing to do. And there you go, and the gimbal damper going on. It's incredible, isn't it? I'm actually more fascinated by that video now more than anything else. But
and you think, look, fully stabilized gimbal back then.
Yeah. So therefore, the Phantom One really was innovative, wasn't it? Really, and we're going to be scoring these for innovation, achieved hype. Does it still work now? Personal experience, and of course, X factor of these drones as well. And a lot of that. I want to know in the chat as well what you think about these models, because a lot of this is going to be based on what myself and Ian think. And of course, we might not agree. So, for me, it sort of starts off up here somewhere, because of course it's extremely the innovation is off the charts, really, isn't it? It is the birthplace. It is where it all started, frankly, and I think that we've got a lot to thank the Phantom One for. And actually specs wise, in terms of when it came out, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't, it was anything else that was competing with it particularly. Of course, there wasn't a camera drone market in the same way in 2013 that there is now. So that it was, I suppose, something what they were trying as another product. But does it stay hovering around the A mark?
I think it's got to be. For the fact it's a first and second, it's got to be in the A or B area. It needs to be in that area, just for the sheer fact that it launched the ready-to-fly drone industry, pretty much. I know the FC-40 came before it, but it's a different aircraft. This is a Phantom out and out.
So we'll currently lock it between the A and B. but we can come back and change these things because perhaps other drones will make us think, okay, that's because of this drone, actually, I think that drone should go higher or lower, etc. So we have that ability in the future. Up next, we've got. Now, I haven't got every single drone that's been released. And for instance, with the minis, we haven't got the first Mavic Mini or the Mini SE and that type of thing. I've tried to go with where I felt like there were significant changes. But up next, we've actually got the Phantom 3.
I remember this launch.
Now, this was an exciting one.
This was a stonker. This is. I had it on launch day. I bought it on launch day. The Phantom 3
Did
Pro.
You?
Yeah, I had it on day one. It was revolutionary, to say the least.
And this was launched in April 2015. So we're talking a good couple of years of sort of development on from the Phantom 1. And we're also talking about this is a proper. For all intents and purposes, this is a proper camera drone. This is probably, from a box innovation point of view, this is still what they're selling us now. On launch day, they will unveil a camera drone with a gimbal and a camera and a controller with batteries and say, here you go, guys. So this is kind of, all the way back in 2015, this is already really the set formula, essentially.
Yeah. They really did. It changed everything. The Phantom 3 Pro especially, it changed everything. 4K camera, 60 megabits a second, light bridge. It was in itself just revolutionary. It really was. There was a lot of things that changed with the Phantom 3 Pro in advance. So it was the first consumer drone to have light bridge. It was the first to have the 4K camera, and they'd lost GoPro at this point and had to start making cameras themselves. And they did start with the Vision Plus, but then when they got to the Phantom 3, it was up there with the GoPro, stabilized gimbal.
Yeah, indeed.
It was fantastic.
No, exactly. So Simon Stickland's in the chat. Hi, Simon. Good to see you. The P3P was solid. I've some great images that still earn me pounds on stock sites, and that's it, isn't it? It does still stack up today. It's not, it achieved a lot that I think even drones now don't necessarily achieve in terms of putting it up against the promise, up against the hype.
Yeah. Well, here's something crazy. An image from a Phantom 3 Pro would probably be as good today as a Mavic 1.
Yeah.
Because the Mavic 1 was really no step forward when we come to that later, because that was all about packaging and not the quality side of things. But that, the Phantom 3 Pro just stood out on its own.
Were you talking about a 1/2.3 CMOS sensor with effective pixels of 12 megapixels, which is good. And again, April 2015, we're talking here, 2.7K. Which you could do in 24, 25 or 30 frames, which is actually 29.97, and the full HD in the same frame rates as well. But then under the 720, they still call it HD, but 720, you could go up to the 60 frames. So it's a pretty good leap forward, frankly. Yeah,
and the Pro model could do 4K. There was a Pro model that could do 4K as well, and it was just revolutionary, absolutely revolutionary. It really was.
Can you guess the range? FCC or CE?
Off the top of my head, I reckon 4 kilometers FCC, 2 kilometers CE. It'll be something like that off the top of my head.
Interesting. When I went onto the specs page, it says the range was 1,000 meters FCC.
That might be the wireless. That's the Wi-Fi version then. Right. Okay. The Lightbridge version, I think, was 4 kilometers.
Yes, that's right, which was a massive chunk forward, wasn't it? Yeah. So, but could you imagine buying a drone these days and the CE range is 500 meters? I mean, you could argue you don't need any more, but of course, from a penetration point of view, you could do with a better signal there, frankly. So, where are we going to put the P3? Because of course the P1 is there and is Mr. Innovation. We can't give the P3 any points for the innovative shape or
no. I think what the P3 did was bring a number of technologies together that we hadn't seen before in consumers. That's the interesting one.
I do
So
apologize
tough-
for moving it across so quickly across the screen. I've just seen it on the playback in the corner of my eye, and this little Phantom 3 darting across people's screens. If anyone's cats have just started to attack their TVs, I apologize.
I think where it is about right, Sean, because like, the Phantom 1 still gets the leg a little bit because like it's the first. The Phantom 2, it's the first proper one.
Okay.
It wasn't the technology, but it was the first proper.
Okay, cool. So we'll have it as almost there, and the only reason the one is there, as you're saying as well, is that it is that the one really was the innovator that really brought the whole thing. I'm going to move it just for my OCD. I'm going to move it up to the line behind it there. There we go. So up next, we've actually got the Phantom 4, but this one, because I've jumped ahead, is the Phantom 4 Pro version 2.
Oh, so that's SocketSync version as well.
Yes,
okay, so yeah, because and it's worth it. You know, the Phantom 4 Pro 4 was a mild update. The camera was a little bit better. It had front object avoidance sensors. That was it. Really, it was a different package. You know, a different casing, nice and shiny. Now this was the first DJI shiny drones. Phantom 4 Pro obviously brought us that 1-inch sensor on the camera. Massive upgrade. But it brought something. Do you know what it brought, Sean, that close to no one has been able to get right since, even DJI?
The Pro or the Pro V2?
Pro. And the V2. They both have it, but it was something different.
I'm looking at the spec list. Okay, we've got 4K, 1-inch sensor, mechanical shutter. Is it the mechanical shutter?
It
the
is.
one thing
it
that
has been
every because of course we do have, and I don't want to start controversy by calling them DJI fanboys, because I am one as well. I really do like DJI products. I've got their cameras and microphones, and I've got all sorts of systems that they sell. So I do love their products. But you do have a subset of DJI fans who love the Phantom 4, and especially the Phantom 4 Pro version 2. And one of the big things that they will push back across is this mechanical shutter, which they've completely gone away from, of course, from with any of the consumer drones.
It is, and it really was very, very good. It was just to this day stands out. Today, there are people who will use it for commercial business today, and it will deliver the results. The drone itself wasn't anything particularly special. So if we think about the Phantom 4 Pro Pro added rear object avoidance sensors. You had front and rear, and then you had the TOF sensors on the side.
5-direction obstacle avoidance, which is OcuSync 2.0. 30-minute flight time is their claim. We'll let them have that, because frankly, when we come to the FPV drone a little bit later with the claimed flight times there, we'll let them have this one on the V2. 20 megapixel CMOS.
What you're going to show in this, Sean, is the nerdiness of how much I know about all of these models. I've just realized
I'm reading the list, and you're like, well, yes, well, that had
this is going to be a bit worrying now, because
the V2 also of course has the 100 Mbps bit rate, the 4K 60 and D-Log, cracking range, and DJI Go 4. And of course, this is a drone that's still available. This is a drone that was only just the chipsets were changed during COVID, and they re-released it essentially. I mean, you can say during COVID or due to massive corruption within DJI, but anyway, that's a whole other argument. But we are still talking about a Phantom 4 still being a current model. This is a side-on view of the Phantom, just to break up the shapes, in case anyone's wondering why my Phantom looks a bit weird. But I'm wondering if, because obviously I think it has to be above the 3. Because it is, it is a superior model. Okay, it doesn't have the innovation and that type of thing, but it's kind of like, how when a car manufacturer has a model out for a couple of years and they have that final edition where we've got everything right now, so there's nothing more we can do to this model. We need to move away now. We need to bring out the next Ford Escort or whatever it is. Showing my age saying Ford Escort. So I'm saying above Phantom 3, but maybe.
Yeah, I think it's got to be
level with the Phantom 1.
Yeah, I would put it level. I think that's because what it brought to the table was 1-inch sensor, 100 megabits a second, the first beginnings of object avoidance, all of that stuff. Active track, in fact, the first drones to contain active track as well.
Now you've really got all this on your teleprompt, haven't you? You can admit it now.
I wish.
Yeah.
This is where I have 20,000 posts on RC
That's
groups.
it, exactly.
This is the world that I was looking after back then.
Hence, you used to run their Facebook groups for them. But
yes,
yeah.
well, yes, there is that. Yeah, this is.
They picked the right person, obviously, didn't they? Okay, up next we have the Mavic Pro, and of course we go in a very different direction here, and we have the first Mavic, which is such an iconic shape. Who'd have thought the Phantom shape would be sort of old hat and wouldn't be seen as the, the cutting edge shape anymore? But I have to say, obviously the folding drone is something which has stuck. It is something which I think is it's something which makes a lot of sense. I mean, when you look at things like, the new Mini 3 and that type of thing, just how small these things can wind in because of that. It's a neat little package, frankly. And really, you look at this video for this Mavic Pro launch, and apart from the lovely smiling good looking people, it doesn't look that far off what you would expect some drone manufacturers to be releasing today.
No, and it's I remember this launch extensively. Now I'm going to apologize to Paul, who's in the video. This is Paul Pan, not him, but one of the product managers at DJI, who I know very well, and he won't like me for saying this, but it was actually a terrible drone. What it did was change the landscape. As a product, it was actually quite bad in many ways. It was the first of DJI's products to have OcuSync. It was the first drone to have it. It was the birth of OcuSync. We didn't even know what it was at the time.
And this was back in September 2016, just so people have a bit of a timeline on that.
But everything else about it was terrible.
Now,
the camera was worse than the Phantom 4 before it.
Yeah.
The Moya issues.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because it kind of was like I don't want to say a toy in comparison to the Phantoms and things, but it was the lesser. But obviously, this iconic thing of being able to fold the arms, etc. That's really where the innovation.
That's where it was. Yeah. It was a step backwards from a performance point of view with the Phantom 3. The image quality wasn't as good as the Phantom 4. Horrible aliasing and Moray. The wireless system was better than anything, and obviously the folding drone element was amazing. From a purely technical standpoint, it wasn't very good. Now, the remote was fantastic. I've always said that the remote design on the Mavic was second to none. In fact, the term I've used for it was Sony. If it didn't have a DJI badge on the front, I would have said it was made by Sony. It was that good. The drone was well made, but the image quality let it down. Yeah,
and I suppose that's going to happen when you're changing the format and the aircraft so completely, frankly. So you can see that there was always going to be some backtracking and some work they were going to have to do. And Andy Cortez, actually our senior moderator in the chat, hi Andy, he's saying he liked the launch event where the guy pulled the Mavic out of his back pocket and the crowd went wild. That was very Apple, wasn't it?
It was the MacBook. For those who remember, going back far enough, it was the MacBook Air launch style where Steve had an envelope and everyone's on the stage and he just slides the laptop out of the envelope. There's no denying it created the drone world we have today. It wouldn't exist without the Mavic. It had its flaws. Something interesting your viewers may not know, it was actually meant to be called the Maverick. The beta models
that's interesting.
That I may have owned had the word Maverick, but Maverick are a very large bike.
Yes.
Manufacturer. And I believe their name is trademarked, and it could not.
Interestingly, as well, that's probably the most common misspelling and mispronunciation that I hear when in Facebook groups and things with novices. I've just got a Maverick Air 2 or something. It's an interesting one. There you go. You had it here first.
There are ones out there in very few hands that actually have it where it says Mavic. It says Maverick written on it.
Did you used to with those beta days when they were proper beta, not just giving it to you before launch? Here's the final product. Did you actually get to keep those, or did you have to send them out?
Those ones, I never had one of these, but the ones who did have them, yes.
So there are some cool models out there somewhere.
Oh, there are some good ones out there. I'll show you something in a minute. I'll show your audience something in a minute. When we get along to it, I'll show you guys.
Excellent.
Something
Well, just
in a
let me
minute.
know because we can use the Zoom on you. Superb. So Mavic Pro. So it is the first. So innovation is got me going boop 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 because of the iconic nature. And now we gave the Phantom One quite a high iconic nature because of its form factor and because it was the start. Does the Mavic Pro gets that for innovation? I think, but
see, I think we got to mark it down because the camera was terrible.
Okay. Where do you want to go?
See, I'm thinking it's got to go bottom B.
Bottom B. Okay, so that's not too bad. Okay, excellent.
The folding element was fantastic.
Yeah, if this was a Phantom essentially, and you know, and they brought a Phantom out with the camera problems etc. it had, it would have got a lot of. It would be down at sort of E or D, wouldn't it, for us right now? But it's the fact, the innovation, those folding wings, that's what's bringing it back up to the bottom of B for us. I think that's a fair one, actually. I think that's very fair. So up next, we have another flawed drone.
We can have an argument here. I think this is the best drone they've ever made.
It's got a really soft spot for me because this was the first DJI drone that I actually purchased for myself. And
I think this drone is fantastic.
After watching a Ready Set Drone review on this particular one, and it was actually, I think that was the first time that I actually watched his channel. This is back in January 2018. So allegedly 21-minute flight time. we still have the 1/2.3 CMOS sensor, 12 megapixel, very, very, you know, they found something that works. They're kind of keeping it. Forward, backward and downward sensors. FCC was 4,000, CE was 2,000, because of course
it was Wi-Fi.
It was Wi-Fi. Is the what?
Well, no, it wasn't on enhanced.
Enhanced Wi-Fi. So, although of course technically OcuSync is technically a Wi-Fi system, but
it's a type of that.
But for some reason, they went enhanced Wi-Fi with this drone. Why would they do that?
They couldn't get OcuSync down small enough at the time. It was purely an engineering
That makes
decision.
sense because on the teardowns of the Mavic Air, it's literally packed with tech. You know, you take that lid off, and it's like opening the hood for the American audience, or the bonnet of a you know, an engine swapped car where there's literally, you know, there's no space there at all. It was packed full of tech. I really like the shape. I still like the shape. I still own my Mavic Air because I can't actually bring myself to part with it. But it did just have things that let it down, and that the enhanced Wi-Fi was probably top of the list for me.
Yeah, you could only get about 300-400 meters in the UK. You could, if it wasn't great,
which is all you need. But if you then went into a Wi-Fi zone, you were screwed, frankly.
Yeah. What I loved about this drone was the industrial design. It was of the aircraft beautiful. It was, you know, you have little metal vents on the back. This is when DJI cared about how their aircraft look. This is the last time they cared as well, if I'm honest. Because if you look at this compared to the Mini today, right, the frog that they've released, we'll call it that. The
Kermit the Frog, yes.
Kermit that's been released today. This is when DJI went, you know what, we're going to do form and function, not we're going to go wildlife. And it, you know, the remote was weaker than the Mavic Pro. It didn't have the screen. It was enhanced Wi-Fi, less buttons. The drone in many ways had its limits, but it was so small, and it still is. Overall so small.
No, indeed. Ash from Droning On is in the chat. He's just off to sleep. It's at least an hour, if not 2 hours later than it is here in Sweden. So thanks a lot for joining us, Ash. He did say he thinks the Air was the prettiest drone ever designed by DJI, and I do agree with that, because in fact we've now got the Hubson, which is now an exo drone in America, that's a very similar design to this, and I think that's quite an attractive looking drone. That's the only nice thing I'll say about a Hubson or an exo drone, but there we go.
Hi Ash, long time no see. I hope you're safe and well, my friend. I hope you're well. I really are. Yeah, and I agree with him 100%. It was just, it took the wow factor and it worked, and it wasn't perfect, but you accepted for the size and weight. You hungered for more from it.
Yes, exactly.
But you accepted what it gave.
As my first DJI consumer drone that I bought with my own money, and the fact that it would go down into this little box, because of course they did a separate box for just the drone itself, a little zip up box, and I really, really love that drone. I still do. And it was just everything about it, the form factor and the design from that point of view. But it did just let me down. I mean, I jumped from Parrots to this, so it was quite a big jump for me anyway. But it was just that signal, because I went from the Bebop 2, which of course was only 1080p, to this 4K monster. But it would just let me down in terms of the signal, unfortunately. So...
Yeah, and I also say,
like
I don't think there's anything revolutionary here.
No.
It was smaller, lighter, but that's not revolutionary. So I'll be honest, I think
was how much can we pack in this little drone? And to almost to their fault, because then they didn't pack what they should have done, which was OcuSync, frankly. Lester from above is saying it's got to go in the bottom of F. Oh, that's harsh.
That's harsh. I'd say D.
My heart is breaking.
A lower D. Lower D.
Oh, okay.
F.
Okay.
F.
Should we leave a couple of props in D and the rest of it in E?
Yeah.
Okay, we're getting a D minus from Dennis. Andy Cortez is also.
I still loved
F.
it. I still loved it,
and I still do now. Now, is this my person? Okay, we'll put it on the brink, because the audience is king here, frankly. So yeah, we'll put it in the middle there. That's our first one. I did say I didn't know whether any would come down there, and perhaps that was my personal attachment to the Mavic Air brand. I feel so sad. That it's there. But to be fair, it cannot be anywhere near a Mavic Pro or the awesome Phantom 4 Pro V2. So when you put it against it, yes, it's what happens. And that's the good thing about tier lists. You can't just say, yeah, it's a good drone. If you actually put it against other things, it really does start to come out what it is. Recovery One drone saying solid C. I agree with you, Dre. I agree with you, but Ian won't, and no one else will say. But there we go. Has to be a C at worst, it says Brantario as well. I'm with you. It's locked in now. No, we can have a little play with them later and see if
we need to get a bit harsher on some of these as well. It's its own fault for coming along.
I can sneak it up a little bit later on. Don't worry. Before we come off air.
And I've got to say, it is genuinely probably my favorite drone. Actually, it isn't, but it's close to being.
The looks, you mean?
Oh yeah, just overall, it was the first super portrait.
Yeah, it was a really, really great drone. Excellent. Okay, and we've put it on E and F, but never mind. We can always change that a bit later. So up next, we have the Mavic 2 series. So the Mavic 2 Pro.
At DJI, true innovation is seeing the bigger picture. Every iteration.
Actually, let me mute that. It was just playing the music there. Sorry if I deafened anybody there. Simon Stickland, CAA type of C. Let's not go down. This is a fun stream tonight. Let's not go down that route this evening. Yes. So the Mavic 2. Now this is a really interesting launch, because you have kind of a Jekyll and Hyde, and there they are together. You have the Mavic 2 Pro that certainly became very popular. A lot of my American viewers loved this drone in particular. But then, of course, the Zoom, which kind of came and went and sort of people just didn't really buy into the whole concept of it, because, of course, you're not getting really you're not getting the camera quality, essentially, although you have this zoom thing, which they seem to be obsessed with zoom at DJI, but on consumer drones, which is bizarre. I understand it on enterprise drones and search and rescue and things, but did you have a Mavic 2 Pro?
I have a Mavic 2 Pro.
And what do you think?
I think this is the best drone they've ever made.
There you go. You see, a lot of people will agree with you. A lot of people.
And it's a hard one, because there is a drone that's going to come up, which inevitably must come up, which is very, very similar in many ways. I'm guessing it's down there somewhere.
Which one? A2S. Oh yes, that's next.
Because it in many ways it's that in a different dress, but it does lack a few features. But I have to say, the build quality, the performance, the camera, it's the best product, period. End of. Every day, flies, gets the job done.
And we're talking again a 1-inch sensor, so it is the bad daddy with the 1-inch, 100 Mbps bit rate. Obviously, it's the first real zoom attempt with the zoom version, but we'll forget that in a moment. And we're talking the range was 10K and 6K for FCC and CE, 4K 25, 24 and 30. 2.7 you can go all the way up to 60, and on full HD you go up to 120, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. And
we're talking about a drone that was released back in August 2018.
And just look how long it was out for.
And it's still, you know, one of our ratings that we're rating these things on is, can you still use them? Yeah. That's spec of a drone. Many drone companies would love to have those reliable specs on their drones right now.
Yeah,
frankly.
yeah, and genuinely, the reason I still have it is I can't bring myself to change it, because anything I think of changing it for, I just think, am I really going to see a benefit? Because it ticked. It was probably the term I used. This was the iPhone 8. From the iPhone 8 onwards, there's been upgrades, but the 8 had a great camera, great screen, great phone, fast enough processor, and that is this. Everything after this is incremental. Everything here then is a minor incremental move forward, apart from some of the smaller stuff.
Absolutely. Well, it's interesting. Actually, Simon Stickland is saying something that I was about to say, that the M2 Pro is still used commercially massively, over-engineered. I agree, it's one of the best, and that's kind of one of the points I was going to make. That this is probably I'm around a lot of commercial operators in the UK, filming interviews, doing work with them, and all sorts of different things that I'm doing at the moment. And we've got some very exciting projects that we're bringing to the channel very, very soon. This is actually the drone that I see in their hands more often than not. Still now, because of the size and portability and everything as well, and as Simon says, it has that over don't talk iPhones, I agree. It has that over engineered factor where it is just a very, very solid unit. Frankly, it's a really great product. And literally there is close to nothing bad about it. Do you think it's probably the first one and the best one at bridging the consumer to commercial side of things? You've got just as many consumers that love this as commercial operators. Yeah, it really would question how many people really need an Inspire 2, because this will deliver almost up there with it. So this was the drone, actually. This was actually the drone that very famously a professional operator told me that he used to take the Inspire 2 to get the work and the Mavic 2 to do the work. Yeah. To take the Inspire to show off to the client, look at this big, lovely, expensive drone. That's why you're paying my bill. And actually, when he went back to do the work, it would be the Mavic 2 Pro. So I'm assuming it's going to be above the Mavic Air. Yeah. Okay. Mavic Pro? Yeah, absolutely. Now, is it going to go above the Phantoms? I think it should be top. Is this the first S-rated? I think yes. Squarely in the S-rated? 100%. Because I can't think of a reason not to. They're literally... Excellent. Yeah, I mean, tell me something bad about this drone that it doesn't fulfill on. And bearing in mind, this is an August 2018 release that is still flown today. Yeah. That you could purchase this drone and fly it commercially today. So, Recovery One drone is saying not above the Phantom 4 drone, but... I understand. I think it is. There are benefits of the Phantom, but overall, it's just an absolute stonker in every way. I agree completely. Do you know, I was just about to check something on my computer, and you know when you're pressing buttons and something in your head says, don't press buttons when you're live on air. You can cut your internet off or something. I was actually checking my internet, and I was like, what am I doing? After I've already had a major technical issue this evening. But there we go. Excellent. No, I probably agree with that. I'm still crying about the Mavic Air, so I'm going to move him along a little bit there so he doesn't feel so lonely out by himself. But yeah, he might accidentally just nudge up there a little bit more in a minute. But anyway, so up next, and we have what I feel like in terms, and the reason I had this one next on the list is I feel like this drone was actually really the offspring of the Mavic 2 Pro in terms of, you know, that engineered quality and bringing moving things on as well, and having a good quality camera and that type of thing. And it is the Air 2S. Yeah, I think this is probably the best one to buy they've ever made. I don't necessarily mean it's the best drone, because I think it is lacking a few features. The remote for me was disappointing. I like having a screen on the remote controller. It's a handy feature to have. I like the shutter difference. There was a mechanical aperture,
sorry, not the shutter. There's a variable aperture on the Mavic 2 Pro, which isn't on the A2S. So I think it loses some points. However, it is the one drone I would probably recommend is the perfect drone for 99% of people.
Yes. If you had no issues in terms of legacy drones and where you can fly this, and if we didn't have those, if we had the same system as the US and we could fly our drones wherever, then this is the only drone I think I would ever tell people that you would ever need, frankly, because from a value point of view of what you spend on this drone for what you get, I think it is absolutely fantastic. And we're talking 5.4K at 24, 25, 30 frames. The 4K up to 60, which is pretty good. 2.7 up to 60, and then the full HD up to 120 as well. OcuSync 3 transmission. So that's a nice chunky move forward as well. So that gave you 12K and 8K respectively on FCC and CE range, which is, again, I think it's great. It's obviously a 1-inch sensor as well. So it brings together a lot of things, and I almost feel like it was almost like, you know, the Mavic 2 Pro and this could almost have been like a Mavic 3, really, because of how good it is.
Labeled that a Mavic 3. I agree with that. You could have easily argued this is a Mavic 3 as an upgrade. We've just made it smaller, lighter, and I think you could have argued it fairly easily. I think what lets it down from being the best is that it wasn't the first to bring that sensor in, but it is right up there. I think it's got to be an A. It has to be an A for me.
Do you think? Do you think? I agree with you. I have to say, and again, it is actually the one you look at people like Billy Kyle loves this drone. You look at people that know DJI products backwards, that know, you know, a lot of people will still say on their long-term reviews that this is the drone as far as they're concerned from DJI. And I do agree with that. I don't think it can get up to the Mavic 2 Pro's level, but I think a very firm A. Would you put it above the Phantoms?
Yes, I'd actually, just because of how good it is.
Okay, it's going to upset the Phantom fans, but there you go. We are. I was about to say we're not here to make friends, but literally, this is a YouTube channel, and if you like this video, please do like and subscribe.
Yeah, don't forget to give Sean a like. Actually, I can do that. I watch it as well.
Of the 100 people that are watching, I would love if we can get those likes up to 50 or 60 before the show ends. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you very much, guys. Right, so next we're going to take a little bit of an offshoot to a very unusual drone. We're actually not going to be going in the order of that these are in anymore.
No.
So this is where I completely lose my place. Next is the Spark.
Oh, I remember this.
And we're changing gear here because this is an interesting little drone from the point of view that it's only 300 grams. It only had one video mode.
Yes.
Full HD, so 1920 by 1080 at 30 frames. That's it. That's all you get. And a Wi-Fi drone. They very much focused with this drone on it being, I think this was really, in my opinion, its concept was a selfie drone.
Yes.
Because it had the gesture and that type of thing, and of course the, you know, hand takeoff, hand landing, but it kind of took on another life, and we have to bear this in mind when we're going to tier it, because there is actually still a very strong audience out there who still fly this drone, and who are huge fans, because it's also very strong. People fly this thing into a tree and then just pick it up and carry on flying, which you wouldn't get that with the modern Mavics, frankly. But yeah, it's a good little drone. I don't have any personal experience of flying it. Did you fly one yourself?
I have tried one. I will say it was a very popular drone, because when I was running the Facebook groups at the time, it had its own dedicated page, the Spark, and it was a very busy one. It really was.
Yes.
It was a drone mired in issues. In the early days, they had battery problems where the batteries would die and it would crash in flight. But once they resolved that, it was okay. It lived its long life. It had a TOF sensor on the front for some rudimentary object sensing. It had that Wi-Fi option where you could use it on your phone or
Yes, that's
you
right.
use it via the very limited remote controller. And this was Wi-Fi, not enhanced Wi-Fi, if I remember.
That's right.
Actually.
So it is intended to be a basic drone. This was supposed to be you are just about getting all of the DJI fun stuff. Hence, there's only one video mode. They didn't even expect people to really. I think they didn't even expect the users to know. Oh, this isn't 4K or this is this and what frame rate. No, this is just going to record the video for you. It's going to do everything for you.
Yeah, this introduced something which I think is a bad thing. This was the beginning of DJI dumbing down how you control your drone. Now, they took away all of the options. You couldn't change anything. You had one camera mode, as you said. There was no RAW. They took away a lot of the stuff, and this was a trend they started to do, not necessarily for the good as well, actually, with this one.
No, I have to say I do agree with that. So, because for me, if we were talking about this, and let me know in the chat where you think this one should sit, everybody. For me, if it wasn't for all of the fans, and almost the cult status that the drone took on all of its own, which was completely different from the audience that DJI intended, ironically, I would actually be heading this down to Mavic Air territory.
Yeah, it's a hard sell for that to be above the Mavic Air.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking we've undervalued the Mavic Air.
Oh, do we have our first recount?
We may need a slight
because we
recount on
can't
the Mavic
really.
Air.
I think the Spark has to sit.
Spark needs to put the Spark in E.
Yeah, okay.
And put the Air in D.
Okay.
We'll
have its front legs in E, so that we.
Yeah, there you go.
So again, we don't have an F, which is interesting. Although we haven't done the FPV drone yet. I love that drone. Anyway, never mind. So okay, that's where the Spark's going to sit for now. So yeah, people are saying D, F, D, D. The Mavic Air needs to move up to D. There you go, Matty. Great minds think alike. There you go, exactly. A recount, yes, we will do recount here. Biased judges, yes, Simon, we are highly biased judges.
Highly biased.
Yes. Honestly, we're not reacting.
And how much money do you have?
Yes. My PayPal is open if anybody wants to see the.
We listed all forms of payment.
Yeah. If anyone wants to see the Phantom 4 go up.
Open a paid donation fee to rate your drone.
and just leave a live stream going with it, sort of changing as people vote. Wasn't that basically Pop Idol? Anyway, sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Up next we have one of the smallest drones on the list, but we might possibly have our first interesting one of where we place this. I've jumped ahead of the Mavic Mini.
Yeah.
So this will get some of the points of the Mavic Mini to the Mavic Mini. Well, not Mavic, to the Mini 2, where they dropped the Mavic name, of course.
Yes. So they introduced a Mini with OcuSync.
Yes.
OcuSync 2.
Yes.
Stroke 3. It's complicated,
with
but
the
it's
Air 2
it's
controller, essentially.
Air 2 controller, great camera. Value is astonishing.
Incredible, frankly, isn't it? I mean, and I when the Mavic Mini was first leaked, I was like, that's a toy drone. I don't think that's real. This little flap for the battery and everything else like that. I don't think DJI are going to go down the route of making something like that. And of course they made it, and it was decent. It was decent with its 2.7K. It clearly wasn't finished. It was clearly as well a test to see if there was an audience there before they perhaps threw too much development into it. But the Mini 2, I have to say, I didn't think we were ready for an upgrade. But boy, when it came out, did I know I was wrong on that, because it really did perform. It is an absolutely fantastic little drone. We've got 4K at 30, 2.7 at 60, and full HD at 60 frames, 100 Mbps bit rate, 10 and 6K on it, because of course you do have the O2 transmission, so its range is excellent. And of course it is under 250 grams, so you have what I was calling until the Mini 3 Pro, and I'm not saying it's taken the crown, but what I call the king of the UK skies here with the Mini 2, because of course you also get to fly it in more places than any other drone here in the UK that's of decent quality. It's the only drone of that size that I would trust to get the job done.
Yeah, I think the packaging was astonishing, how small they made it. There's nothing groundbreaking here. Okay, the size was amazing and the weight was amazing. I think it's got to be a solid B plus is where my head is at on that.
You don't think it's a bit higher than that? So you don't think that a sub 250 gram drone that is a very good camera quality, 4K, and actually it actually is pretty decent.
But that's only a legislation thing.
Obliterated, yeah, but it's still innovative because they innovated to get around the world's regulations. And in fact, here in the UK, we didn't realize how much we needed that sub 250
no
until long after in actual fact, until after this was launched, because it was November 2020 that the Mini 2 was launched. So this has become a very, very important drone. You think around B, do you?
I think B+ to A.
Okay, so Simon Stickland is saying B+
B+
as well. So I will cede to both of you and put it as B+. I would have been tempted to put it as an A, but when I then put it next to the Air 2S, it's not, in terms of overall drone, overall quality, there's no way, and certainly it's not Mavic 2 Pro level, but that might just be because we also fly commercially and not just as a hobbyist. Andy Cortez, thank you very much for the £2 super chat, and thanks again for all the new members this evening as well. I really
bribe
to put the Mini 2 in S. It's an interesting one. And this is why tier lists are such fun, because you're kind of forced. You can't just say, oh, I think that's an A grade and move on, because it's in front of you the whole time. And I have to say, putting it above the Air 2S and above Phantom 4,
I think it's very hard to put it above them. And look, there's nothing amazingly new.
I have to put it down a little bit. There we go.
Smaller. The drone was just smaller. That's the reality. That was its big thing.
Iconic. So the fact that this drone is so iconic, the fact that the drone is innovative from the regulation point of view, is what puts it right up there, frankly. And then it's just, actually there's nothing really new in there. There's nothing, it's just a clever way of packaging stuff that we already had, really. The Air 2S, I felt, was almost like a parts bin drone from the point of view of bringing together all the bits that they already had, and the Mini 2, you can argue, is as well, frankly. So we do have some people wanting to see it as an A, but that's fair enough. Down to the Mavic Air. But Matty's Drone World is bringing up an interesting one on a recount. He thinks that the Phantom 2 and 3 need to drop down just a bit.
Probably now. Now you see them in reflection.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Do we really think that though? The 2 and 3, So the 3. I think the Phantom 1 has to stay there, up there, because of it started everything, and arguably that could be an S just because of that.
Just because.
But should we bring it level with the Mavic Pro?
No, it's better than the Mavic Pro.
So just above the Mavic Pro and below the Mini 2. There we go. Excellent. There you go, Matt. You can't say we don't listen. We can change it afterwards. It's fine.
Just do it off here. We'll re-edit.
We should do our own off-air version.
Completely different.
And you all think we wouldn't do that. You all think we don't love drones enough not to sit for another X hours and actually go through. We would. I think that's I'll see you Sunday, Ian, for that one. Okay, so we're going to go straight on from there to actually bring you up something which is a little bit more chunky, shall we say? And we haven't hit the one that you've got that you've got something to show us on yet.
No, we haven't.
I'm excited.
I wouldn't get too excited.
You're not about to show us the Maverick.
No. I haven't got one.
No, indeed.
If I had, I'll show you something else though. A little sneak of something else. It's not a lot, but it just gives you an inkling of the kind of stuff that does exist out there.
So Vineyard Shoot. Can you hang on? Let me see if I can. Oh, I can't pause it in time. Damn. I was going to say,
it's old Dragon Skull.
Yes, it is. It is the beast.
The Inspire One. I owned 3 of these.
I
the reason
still
I
own
owned
one,
3, just 2 of them didn't work properly, is the reason I own 3 of them. So we'll come on to that in a minute.
Yes, indeed. And now I've got the Inspire 2 on the list as well, so we'll kind of put these two. We won't sort of have them separately. We'll put these two on the list at the same time. But the Inspire One obviously is something which, from an innovation point of view, I think is fantastic, because you have suddenly interchangeable. It's moving everything out of the way, so you've got the 360 view of the camera. It's the first heavyweight. I have an Inspire One Pro, purely because it was so cheap. It was a guy that was selling them off who was coming out of the industry, and it was his backup. It had done about 6 hours flying.
Is yours a black or a white one?
It's still a white one.
So is yours a T600 or T601?
601.
Okay. So yours is the later variant.
Yes.
That's fine. Because I don't know if you know this, they sold some T6. This gets all very messy, but they sold some under the T600s as well, which are V2s.
Yes.
Mostly the black ones.
Yes, indeed. This is the Pro with the X5 and so the enhanced camera. And in actual fact, I've done work with it. I only bought it because it was kind of like I wanted to. It was so affordable. He'd flown it for 6 hours, literally, and he showed me his logbooks. And it's in such great condition. It looks brand new, but actually it's still capable enough to do mapping and things like that. And I've actually done some work recently with it.
It is. And look, I had a V1 and a V2 and then an Inspire 2. The Inspire One was the first drone to introduce Lightbridge in the ready to fly. So Lightbridge was a standalone product. It brought Lightbridge, and then we had the golf ball camera, which was the X3, which was basically, they took what they made with the Inspire 2 and made the Phantom 3 Pro and made it smaller and lighter. And that's the amazing thing about the Phantom 3 Pro. It's an Inspire One in a smaller package. The drone is very good, but my God, did it have some issues. And my God, was there some problems. We've got the famous one that flew into the garage door because DJI had bad IMU code. We had them falling out the sky because the battery firmware was terrible and it would turn off when it hit 3 volts.
And yes, I agree with you. It had its problems, but interestingly, as Simon Stickland's saying, he had over 400 hours on a single i1, 0 issues, commercial, and best looking rig in black. And they do look good in black. I'm tempted to wrap mine.
They do.
But actually, I hear a lot of people that found it very reliable. But it seemed to almost be. Do you think it was batching? That some batches were just.
It was a complicated beast. We could never fully understand why the same hardware with the same software would behave differently. The Inspire One was a drone that would very much behave oddly. I had 3. One of them would just hover all over the place, in the sense of they all are pretty bad. They all move around in an area about the size of 1.5 meters, the Inspire ones. If you compare them to a Mavic today, you can put a Mavic here, leave the room, and it won't have moved a millimeter hovering. It would just sit there. If you did that in here, the Inspire One would be in the corner up against the wall. It would, it's,
yeah, I don't dispute that, actually. Yeah.
it's a different animal. I think in many ways it was revolutionary, but I also don't think it was particularly special, especially the Inspire One. I think the Inspire One would go somewhere around D. Actually, roughly where you've got it. I'll be honest, Sean. I think it was quickly replaced by the Phantom 3 Pro for many people.
Okay.
Yes, you had the X5.
I'm going to have the top
later
of it going into C.
Okay,
just a little bit there, and in fact, it wants to click. It's actually my OBS is snapping to there.
Snapping to there.
So I think
it's a good drone, but I'm
being bribed by somebody. I can't tell you who.
It was also problematic.
Okay.
I think it was widely used, no question. Probably the most widely used commercial drone ever made, because it was used everywhere.
What about the next one, the Inspire 2? Obviously, this changed from the point of view of having obstacle avoidance. It had the FPV camera option on there as well, and things,
which is terrible to call it a camera. I would smear your car's windscreen in cow poo, and that is the kind of view you get out of the FPV camera on an Inspire 2. It is.
I'm moving out to sea, and I'm blaming Simon.
You're moving Simon. However, the Inspire 2 has delivered very good payloads.
It has.
And look, that's what it's designed to do. It's not a great drone, but it's a bloody good one. She is there. In her case,
I just also as well, Inspire One. Not that I'm upset that you wanted to put it in E at all, but we are talking about something that was being first launched back in late 2014.
November 14.
That's crazy. That's a good drone
November
for that,
14,
and I fly that now and earn money from it. So, and the
it
Inspire
is
2 for me,
astonishing,
I think, okay, we're going to put it above the One. I think. Is it going above the Phantom 3s?
No,
I
think it goes a bit. What did it introduce? It introduced slightly longer flight time, dual batteries, the Cine core. So we had SSD recording, ProRes RAW, or not ProRes RAW, actually, ProRes or DNG RAW, depending on which one you wanted. It was a pro aircraft on every level.
Yeah, and really. The Inspire 2 is still the workhorse now. I think it is still so many people's workhorse. I think just from the fact that it's used a lot now as well, I'm thinking here, B.
Yeah, I think they.
Squarely
Yeah,
a B. I don't think it can go up and for Air 2S and Phantom 4 Pro. And we're not saying we're not comparing these like for like, but more across the areas and in terms of innovation and everything else like that. I think the Inspire 2 was finishing what the Inspire One did in a much better way, frankly.
Yeah, it does. And look, this is I'll share with you that little thing I was talking about now. Now I don't know how well you will see this. Actually.
I can actually bring you up on
but
it.
wait, they know what I can do is I can do it a bit easier. I can do it on an overhead
Excellent.
as well.
There we
go. Let me find my hand so I can.
We have all the innovations here.
Try and focus it when I find where actually there we are. There it is. So for those who don't know, the Inspire 2 launched with a camera called the X5S, which was the second version of the camera. However, it wasn't actually going to be called the X5S. Ooh. It was going to be called. Oh no, I can't show you on the overhead because I'm not in OBS.
You're not in OBS.
Right, I don't know how you.
If you put it in front of your face, your camera will focus on it.
No, I don't use autofocus, Sean.
Okay. Well, then I'm just disappointed.
I manually focus.
So this is a beta of the X5S.
Yeah, wait a minute. I'll show you. I'll take a picture of it, right, and then I'll put the picture up in front of the camera. There we go. So
because we have the latest technology here at Mads Tech and Geeksvana.
I thought I was on my system.
Yes,
that's the problem. And I'm sitting here going, "Oh, I could go to the overhead."
Hold my beer, says Ian.
Right. For those who I don't know. Oh, where is it? Let me get away from the light.
It down slightly. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah. The camera, the original one, was actually called the X5 Mark II. I don't know how well you guys can see that. Let me just shift it.
See, I like the X5S branding actually.
Yeah, but it was a really
there you go. Really clear. M2.
There you go. So it was actually called the X5 Mark II because that's a pre-release camera. It's the same model. It's just they changed it. They, believe it or not, DJI do these things quite a lot. They change the names. They have a name in mind.
Yeah, no, I can imagine that.
They
sort of say, actually, focus group. We're now going to call it the S. It works.
Yeah.
It works because I think the S works pretty well for it, frankly.
Yeah. It was just, I know it's a little thing, but it just shows some of the hardware, that does exist. There are lots of little things out there that have different names on than what was released. It's a little one, but it's, she was a pre-release.
I don't want to say that's what she said, but we are having a slightly more fun show this evening than serious. So. Okay, up next we have, this is going to be interesting. This is going to be a challenge. The Mini 3 Pro. Now, of course, we're talking about a drone that has just come out in May. We're talking sub 250, so very much like the Mini 2, 34-minute flight times or 47-minute flight time if DJI will allow themselves to sell you something which they can perfectly legally sell you, but they decide not to. But anyway, for the American audience, this is actually the first time a battery is not being sold in the UK and EU that would enhance this drone, which is mind-boggling, frankly. 4K up to 60, all of them go up to 60. It does have a slow motion on the 1080 that goes up to 120, and you've got 12K and 8K FCC and CE. Good specs, and of course you have this new sort of well, not new, because of course the Mavic Pro had the switching gimbal to go into portrait mode and landscape mode. I mean, it's a good drone. I'm happy with mine.
Term I would use, I think it's a good drone, but it's not a great drone. Do you know what I mean? I think that there is, it's probably, again, like we said for the A2S, the best drone for 99% of people who just want to go and do aerial photography. Yeah. It's probably the best drone, but it's not great. It's expensive. It's expensive.
Yeah. It's expensive.
It's expensive,
and it's interesting actually, because you were saying before about the dumbing down. I feel like this is the dumbed down to Air 2S, if that makes sense. And that's fine because it's a great drone, and regulation-wise, I can fly it in a lot more places than my Air 2S that I can comfortably. I mean, I have A2C, GVC, etc., but comfortably, I feel more comfortable flying this in a lot of places here in the UK, regulations-wise. But actually, It does what it says on the tin, etc. But it's a lot of money for what it is. The RC is very easy to start losing the picture in terms of it's a one trick pony,
and everything about it's been done cheap. The remote, you know, it's like when you get into a basic Volkswagen. My God, do they let you know it? There are car companies I've bought cars from over the years that there's a certain level on all of them. Ford's like that. You could, if you buy like a Ford Focus, you get a lower level. It's nothing. But VW, when you get like a base level VW, my God, that seat trim, those missing buttons, the blacks, they let you know.
No, indeed.
And this is what this is like.
Yeah, indeed.
They've cut it back. I think it is. If someone was saying to me today, I've got unlimited money, I want to buy the best drone for my use every day, it's probably that. If someone says, I want a drone I can take portable with the best image quality, it's probably that. It doesn't, though, mean it's great.
No.
Because I just...
Yeah, and actually, to answer a question, Gary, Grant Ayres is saying, are you evaluating the drone, all the regulations? Well, as we were saying at the beginning, we're doing it from innovation, achieved hype. Does it work? Does it still work now if it's an older one? Personal experience and X factor. So the personal experience is really where the regulation comes into it for us over here in the UK. And I don't know whether this would be such a coveted drone if it wasn't for the European and the UK regulations, because actually if it wasn't, I'd be flying the Air 2S and saying, why do I need that with my smart controller? And I'd be saying, why do I need that? Frankly, it's but due to regulations, this is out of the box more than my Air 2S is. So it's
I'm looking at that and I think it goes level with the Mini 2. I see no reason to put it higher.
Do you know, I actually agree with you. And that's based on what we know of it now. It has just had a fantastic new update, and it is a great drone. But I don't think, I agree with that, because look at the others. To go any higher, it would need to be up against the Phantom 4 Pro V2, the Air 2S, and it just isn't, frankly, on innovation either. Again, it's doing a lot of the stuff well, isn't it? It is bringing a lot of the stuff into the fray well. Now we only have 3 left, and one is actually one's an honourable mention, because the M30 is slightly, to tier list that against things like the Spark seems slightly unfair, but yeah. So we have 3 more drones left, guys, and keep letting us know if you think we've made any errors in here and that type of thing. Sesko 774, why isn't there Matrice 300 RTK? I've kind of tried to keep this towards, not being 5 hours. So the only Matrice we've got is the M30. And I know what you mean. I ummed and ahed about having the coffee table Matrice design on here, but there are some that I had to drop, unfortunately. That was one of them. And of course, most of my audience is still consumer. So next one is the Mavic 3.
Oh, controversial release.
The Mavic 3
today,
probably has,
or was on day of release?
I think today. I think we have to do it from today. Yeah. This is probably the drone that has the most don't buy or watch before you buy type of videos out there going, and I think part of that almost became its own hype bubble.
I think we'll see a refresh very soon.
Do you think we'll see an S or something?
Because they're going to have to shake off the history now.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, it's fine. I believe my understanding is all the GPS issues are resolved.
It's great. It's a great drone.
Camera issues are improved. I think it's good, but it's tainted. It's tainted by its history. Not for the owners. The owners will be fine, but all of that baggage is out there.
Yeah, no, indeed.
They need to move on very quickly. Just an S. Oh, we fixed a load of stuff. Oh, it's new. The all new S. Add something, get it refreshed, and let it live its life for the next 2-3 years.
I think I think the Cine was interesting because, of course, we have this drone with a as Simon saying a built-in SSD, which is nuts. I agree with what he's saying.
Yeah,
but I wonder if that's actually a bit of innovation that we'll see in the future, but that we don't know where they're going with that. With some of these drones, there've been little things like, are they trying this out? Are they doing this? Are they doing that? And then a couple of releases later, they'll do it more properly, like the zooms and things like that.
But I'm not convinced the workflow. The workflow is right, and the footage isn't right. I've tried it, I've tested it. The footage is not much better, and the workflow is horrible for anyone who uses it professionally. If you're using it professionally, you've got to stop and attach it to the computer to offload.
That's really interesting, actually, because I agree with you. I do not see this as a commercial drone. I do not see. I see this as not even really prosumer. It's very consumer. It's the high end of consumer, and it's people that really, you know, it's difficult to pigeonhole.
The ProRes footage is not that good.
No,
it's not enough to warrant the cost in any shape or form. Any shape or form. And actually, the overall drone wasn't that good. The sensor is not really any better than the 1-inch on the Mavic 2 Pro. I checked it extensively. There's not a lot in it most of the time. There's minuscule amounts, but if you add in the cost difference, you're talking marginal differences. The cost up to that Cine model is insane for what you're getting. The only reason to choose the Cine is if you're working in an LLE situation where you need ProRes. And that way you're not having to transcode. Therefore, you're getting an improved time saving. Yes. However, are you going to lose that time by having to tether the damn thing to the computer?
I do know a few people who are high-end operators, and you know their client list is very, very important. It's very not important, impressive in terms of, you know, actually gaining cinematic footage, that do have these, and a few of them bought 2 or 3 of them, so one can be downloading while they're flying the next one and that type of thing. But of course, in those at that level, you can afford to buy 2 or 3 of these. So the Cine seems to be almost playing with and dancing with a very, very specialist audience, frankly.
Yeah, and I just don't think they spoke to the right people beforehand. And they would have been better with the Cine, making a removable SSD, adding more weight and reducing the flight time. We'd have accepted it because the benefit of a removable SSD would have outweighed the loss in flight time. You can buy more batteries. You can't buy time.
No, I completely agree with you there.
And that's where this comes down to,
okay.
You know.
So one of the most hyped drones in the history of drones, frankly, when, you know, I once made the joke that they could bring out a cola can and call it the Mavic 3 and sell a few million units before this thing came out, because it was literally the one name everybody wanted to see. Where does she go? Where does she go?
I think overall, it's probably the best drone that's on the market today for a consumer. I mean, if we're adding everything, I'm not saying it's the best value, but I think overall the image sensor, everything. But about this, Sean, I think probably, I'm comfortable with it below the
just
A2S.
Just a shadow below the 2S, and only because the cost, pound for pound, and dollar for dollar. I don't mean just to hop across the pond there to make sure they don't think we mean weight pound for pound, but value-wise, pound for pound, it is just behind the Air 2S.
There's nothing amazing in this. It didn't need a 4/3 sensor, but they added it. But it doesn't really need it. There's nothing new, innovative, or special. Everything that's in that drone they've done before elsewhere. They've just put it in this. You know, we've had SSD recording on the Inspire 2, with like OcuSync 3 and the A2S. It was a sort of a bringing together of stuff in an expensive package that really didn't necessarily give you the benefits.
Yeah, and Adam raises a good one actually as well, which was something that confused me at the beginning, which is Dog Whistle Sharon. Why did they make the camera so much larger by adding a zoom? Honestly, Adam, I think it confused a lot of people. Even if you look at Potato Jet's first video that he put out on it, where they literally they did that weird thing where the advanced creators had 24 hours. Some of them only had 12 hours with the release firmware to play with it, which was a bizarre situation. Here's this drone many weeks before it comes out, but you won't be able to make your video till the day of release. Bizarre. And he had the same thing as well, because and it was that you can't even blend the two and things, because there's a jump once it jumps to the X7, etc., to the 7x zoom. And I know people that have a lot of fun with that zoom, but otherwise it's a bit of a strange thing to have on there. On that level of cinematic drone, you know,
it's for 99% of people, it's a complete waste of time. It's pointless. We could have taken the cost down.
Do you know what? I want its props just below the Phantom 4 Pro V2, because I think let me just make a little bit of space, because we're now coming. We've got a couple of drones left. I feel like I just moved the Inspire up accidentally there. Sorry. The Mini 2 went up a bit there. That would have been popular with the chat. Okay. So there we go, and I'm actually fairly happy with where these drones are sitting so far. I don't know about you. The Mavic 2 Pro, I don't know whether I would have put that in S before the stream, but I'm happy it's there. The Spark and the Mavic Air, I think as time has gone on, I think they're in the right kind of levels. Next, we have a bit of a controversial one again, when we're talking about innovation and whether you can use this thing or not and that type of thing. And it's the FPV drone.
Oh, I forgot about this thing. Yes.
How could you
the
forget?
potato?
How could you forget?
The potato, as we like to call it in the FPV.
As Ken Heron calls it, the POS. The DJI POS.
Look, this was designed to do two things. It was designed to bring FPV to the masses. So from that point of view, it's been successful. It is very good in the sense of it's a turnkey FPV solution that, okay, people say you can buy off-the-shelf FPV drones that are as good. They are, but what they don't have is DJI's redundancy. Yes. So GPS return to home, the fail-safes, the way it will always generally recover unless you've hit something. That is what DJI do best. It's a great safety net drone. It really is to get you going. There are many things that are not very good about it. The camera was disappointing more than anything. The flight time, I think, is okay. It is overweight, but that it's over-engineered in the wrong places. Unfortunately, it is fragile.
Yeah, and that's an interesting one, isn't it? Because of course you have, and that's one of the big things. And of course it was, everybody started sharing their photos with all the legs broken and everything else like that the day after the first deliveries, etc., all over Facebook. And that is the interesting thing, of course, because you're talking about a subsection of drones and a sport within drones of FPV that is very much, fly, crash, repair, repeat. And if you're not crashing, you're not pushing hard enough, etc.
You're not pushing hard enough. You're not flying hard enough.
Here you have a drone that has the oh bleep button, the oh shit button. I think we're late enough in this stream to be able to say the word oh shit. I've just said it twice. There you go. But it did have the oh shit button, and a lot of it was counter the sport and the hobby that it was not aimed towards, because there's no way existing FPV users were that interested as soon as they saw it. Although I know people like Max Air 420 actually fly these now, so that's interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of people interested. I think it's not a terrible drone. No. Typically they marketed it to the wrong people, I think, in some ways. But for anyone who wants a bit more of an FPV experience from a Mavic user, it's probably a good buy.
Now, as a non-FPV pilot myself, I'm now doing whoops and things like that. But I've not built a drone. I've not flown a proper 5S or anything else like that, for a multiple inch prop drone. But for me, I love this drone. I think it's fantastic. It's the first time in a drone where I can go to the same place that I've flown in, several other times, and be able to just keep flying there because I'll have a different experience that day. I'll be able to do something else and try a new trick. And so for me, it was revolutionary as a camera drone operator that was suddenly thrust into this world of FPV. This thing is up there for me personally. Yeah, that's just personal. I'm not leaving it there. Don't everybody leave. Come back. Everyone's clicked off to go watch something else. Too late. I'm not leaving it there, but just personal. Yeah. Because a personal experience is one of the areas that we're rating these things. From a personal experience point of view, I love this drone. I love how it turns on. I love my first experience with proper goggles, because of course, and I haven't gone up to cheap goggles here. I've gone, straight into V2 DJI goggles, which is awesome. And with the digital system, etc. So it's a fantastic piece of kit, and it's been an awful lot of fun to fly, and it's reminded me how much fun drones can be. I'm not going to start building drones, I don't think, and that type of thing. I don't think I'm going to go down that level, but it gives me enough insight. Again, with a good GoPro on here, with a good camera attached to this, I have used this for work, because you're able to offer the client some of the sweeping shots that FPV can without having to be, particularly good at flying FPV drones. So it's good from that point of view. Where are we going to put it?
See, I'm firmly in the C camp.
Are you?
I think about the...
Do you know, I don't actually disagree with that. I might actually just click it below the Inspire One. Yeah. Just because,
there's nothing special about it. They could have done it before.
Yes.
They could have had all the features on a Mavic with that. Look, you could do... There's no reason a Mavic Mini couldn't do all of that. You could make a Mavic Mini with fixed up. At the end of the day, there's nothing revolutionary here.
Yeah, and not only is there nothing revolutionary, nothing massively innovative about it, that in itself is kind of a kick in the teeth to the products.
Yeah.
Because of course it could have been and
Yes.
should have been,
And
and it was a chance for DJI to really take that side of the hobby on.
Yeah.
And they didn't do it. It's interesting as well that it's never really been updated. It's never sort of leapt forward. It's never been developed.
Can we swap the picture for a picture of a potato? Just
no, because I like it. And I
flying
still fly
potato,
it.
we call it.
It does sometimes sit on my shelf, but it's not on my shelf because I've been flying it.
It's been
so
yeah, it's
that's enough. It's down on the CD. If it was me, as I say, it would be up in the S. But there we go. And we have to give an honourable mention when we're talking about these drones. And I didn't include the matrices because there would just be so much. The matrices are a working platform. They are a platform which are so diverse.
Yes.
You know, an M300 in the right hands with the right payload can do some incredible work. So it's a little bit too specialist to make it onto a tier list, I think. But we now have, of course, the M30, which is probably the most exciting thing that has ever hit the UK police forces and search and rescue and fire departments. I think I've seen more government agencies tweeting pictures of their M30 arriving than any other drone.
This is the ultimate muscle flex for DJI. What I will call this is Elon Musk firing his Tesla into space. That's what this is. This is, and then landing his boosters on the pads. That's
very good.
This is the ultimate. It is astonishing. This is DJI at their very best in every way. They are a company I have been lucky to have experience with. They make some great products. They can be a nightmare at times, but this just shows what they can achieve when they put the right people and the right.
It's just phenomenal. It is just phenomenal, and you know it is something that just pre-launch, and it's actually one of the ones where actually pre-launch they didn't let too much out about it. I think it was only about a week or two before the launch where everything came out. And even the controller, the fact the whole thing can operate in the pouring rain, this thing can work in, you know, and it's just incredible. And the zoom and it's also the switching function as well. The fact that you can switch from zooming heavily in on something to thermal like that, and it's just incredible. Frankly,
it may look like, hey you guys, but it is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, it really was produced for search and rescue, law enforcement, that type of thing. It's not a camera drone. It's never going to make it from that point of view. But again, you have to say this is marrying the whole Matrice thing and Mavic thing, all those benefits into one. And innovation-wise as well, I think it's off the charts, frankly.
It is. It's just an astonishing piece of technology.
Even little things there, like they showed there being able to hot swap the battery on the controller because they've got the built-in backups there. Just little things like that to me are just it's just phenomenal, frankly.
It is. It's a complete muscle flex in every way.
Yeah. It's very exciting. Bruce in the chat, Bruce XJet. Hi, Bruce. Good to see you. He said, come on, Geeksvana. The Agris freestyle for the win.
Agris freestyle, We'll crop spray whilst freestyle.
Those things.
It is. It's unbelievable. I would literally give a kidney to play with one of these. I haven't had the chance. It's a product I would love to spend some time with.
Yeah. It is phenomenal. And we do have some content coming up on the M30. It is phenomenal. It looks phenomenal. It feels it in the hand, you know, just from the point of view, you know, when you hold a drone, you're like, this is it. It is awesome. It is such a powerful tool. And as Simon says in the chat, it is a really great fit for SAR, for search and rescue. It is phenomenal. We won't okay, we're sullying it now by bringing the drone in the box into it, but I'm not sure why that was in the launch video, but there we go.
It's got a yes.
Oh, I was going up there prematurely, but do you think it's got to be?
It's a muscle flex, but it delivers. It's.
I think at one end of the scale with consumer, Mavic 2 Pro is our S, and at the other end you've got the M30.
You can argue this is the industrial Mavic 2 Pro, and that is the easiest way to look at it. It is a Mavic. There is
exactly.
It's cool. It might be the Matrice line. This is very much a Mavic. When you look at it, the design, the overall. All of the Mavic DNA is in there.
Yeah, indeed. And I wonder if that's also why they did put the M30 rather than fully that Matrice 30. I think, you know, M for Mavic and Matrice coming together. I'm actually just going to put it there so it does finish slightly higher than Mavic 2 Pro. Now, are we sure that we don't want to put one of the minis up here on the S as well?
No.
Oh, you're so harsh. You're so harsh. You're so harsh.
I don't think there's anything great about a Mavic Mini.
Yes, the only great thing about a Mavic Mini is the regulation, and that isn't anything to do with the drone. And that's if
you choose to follow it. And you know what I mean. I know everyone should, but
but actually, that's only in a very small part of the world as well. In a geographical, the rest of the world, this tier listing I feel is pretty correct as well. So there we go. There we have it. We have the tier list, the DJI tier list, as seen by Geeksvana and Mads Tech, which I think is an interesting one, frankly. And I think I'm still slightly sad to see the Mavic Air and the Spark bringing up the rear, as it were. Individually, they are great little units that had a lot to offer. But in the grand scheme of things, when you look at what they're up against, they don't have a chance. No. And in fact, I think we've been quite generous with the smaller gap that we've given them to anything else. A lot in the middle there, a lot in the A to C.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I have to move the FPV drone down a bit, don't I?
Yeah, keep going. The potato's got a lot.
Do you know what? I've just looked at it.
The potato down.
I just looked at it. I thought it's close to the Inspire and like knocking on with the minis and the Phantom 3s. Yeah, no. You go down there above the Mavic Air, but. Yeah, so there we go. There we have it. That is our Air list. You have to let me go in the comments as well for anybody that's rewatching the replay. If you agree, if there's anything that you would change, etc. XJet says, "Where's the Tello?"
No, it's not made by DJI. It's made by Rise Robotics.
DJI. Yes,
who are owned by DJI, but it's not made by DJI.
Yeah. But where would you put it if the Tello had to be on here?
I don't think it's anything particularly great. Yeah, no, I think that could be RF.
Yeah, I have to say I do think that, but there we go. Excellent. Well, that is our list, as I say. So let us know if you do agree. Thank you very much, everybody, for upping those likes. I appreciate that as well. What have you got coming up on your channel?
Oh God, my God, what haven't I got coming up?
Will there be anything to do with a certain pair of goggles that are within a couple of feet of you?
Yeah, there is going to be so much coming on that. I apologize to everyone if you're not into FPV goggles, but that's what's around the corner. In the near future, we've got goggles, videos, left, right, and center. There will be a antenna video tomorrow. Maybe a teardown video tomorrow or the antenna video. I haven't decided. I might be putting out the most clickbaity video I have ever made. I haven't decided if I'm going to film it when I finish with you now, Sean, which is potentially.
I'm going to ask you when we come off air what it is actually.
Potentially the most clickbaity video I've ever made, but I'm going to do it for nothing more than the analytics. I may be shameful, but I will be doing it I need to pay for these goggles somehow.
You do, exactly. XJet, are you serious about that? He's saying, me too. My vid drops tomorrow on the Fat Shark.
It's yours
avatar.
Tomorrow, is it? Oh, that's interesting.
Do you have them, Bruce?
Sent you one?
Well, he may have ordered, because you ordered yours, didn't you? Which they've reached you.
Well, I ordered mine about 4 different ways.
Yeah, it's been interesting with the videos, hasn't it? From the Mr. Steel all the way through to JB's videos. I think we've seen some interesting videos, but an XJet video I think would be
nice
really
if we actually had an RC model reviews video. I'm still waiting for him to finish one of the ones from 10 years ago he promised.
But yeah, I don't have any, but I am analysing the existing reviews with some interesting, hopefully, observations. I will be watching that, Bruce. Thank you. And
so we got that. I've got some 3D printing reviews coming up as well. Actually, we've got we had Creality reach out to us and say, look, would you be interested in taking a look at a couple of our printers? So it's not sponsored. It's, they've provided the equipment, but it's not sponsored. The only agreement I've made is that I'll make the videos in a timely manner. And I did say I would share them with them first, which if I've agreed to that, I will, but I won't be changing anything because that's not how I operate. But we've got an FDM and we have a thing as well, a resin printer. So we're going to have a look at how we can integrate resin into it.
You see, that's one of those sort of addictions that I can't go down the line of. You can't be starting me on 3D printing. The next thing, I have an Etsy store like Domo.
An Etsy store, yeah. I don't know how he has time to run his Etsy store. But yeah, we've got the goggle stuff, and it's going to be predominantly goggle stuff for a while. But there is a remote controller review I've got to do. That's it. I've had to build a shelf to put some stuff on, actually, because it's like I've got.
Will we get a shelf review?
The shelf review of what's coming up on the shelf. Mad shelf is what I should call it.
It's not a bad idea, actually. You should have a camera looking at the shelf, and on your live streams.
Look at everything I've got to do.
This is what's coming up.
Yeah, this is what's
coming up. That's it. I've told you now. See you next week.
Yeah, so we're going to be doing that. And look, it's been a busy period, but it's sort of in our wheelhouse right now. Do you know what I mean? So, and I say our, the we, I use the royal we. I wish I had a team of people. I really, really wish I had a team of people.
Wouldn't it be awesome?
That I could just
don't you look at these channels, and I know they're bigger channels and they've got the income to support it and everything, but you do look a little bit envious at some of these channels when they open the door and the team's sat out there. Just what I could do with those people.
Just a cameraman, so I could be holding something here, and I can
need to move closer.
And I can go, Dave, can you just come here and do a zoom in on that?
Yeah.
At the moment,
we need to move geographically a little bit closer, so we can start meeting up.
People don't realize this. When you are a creator, I am the cameraman, the sound man, the
producer, the director,
talent, the producer, the talent. Actually, the on-screen lack of talent.
The on-screen lack of,
and the editor. A video consists of tuning everything on, make sure it's working. You gain so much expertise in doing this. It's insane, isn't it? The things you learn, the hats you learn is absolutely incredible. But there is a link to Ian's channel in the description. You really, if you are, he's got, hence his experience on DJI camera drones. So it isn't just FPV he talks about, but at the moment there is a lot going on in that world, and Ian is 100% on top of it. You will hear mad tech if the YouTube algorithm is hearing the words mad tech in more of other people's videos probably
than I think any other drone channel at the moment.
Yeah. It's got a bit out of control.
He's literally the talk of the town at the moment on the FPV side, and rightly so, frankly, because
I'm burning bridges at every opportunity, Sean. Everywhere I go, there's a bridge burned and set on fire by some manufacturer, and it's
exactly.
But no, look, the turn I made has paid off. And I took a very simple decision a few years ago, and that was to stop worrying about what companies think about me and just do what I want to do. And I took the Gamers Nexus approach of how I will deal with people. I will be fair, but I will be critical, and I will not whitewash anything over. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. And just answering Lester from above, it was the reveal from Mads Tech was the X5 Mark II.
Yeah, the camera. I told you it wasn't worth waiting for.
Yeah, no, he did warn you. Although I was quite excited by that one, actually. It's always good to see a pre-model like that. So it's very cool. Excellent. Okay, well, thank you again for being on. I really do appreciate it. You're always so generous with your time. I really enjoy spending time with you. I'm glad I limited it to that, because we have been going for nearly a couple of hours, actually.
It's been fantastic.
I could easily chat to you for 5-6 hours, frankly. Which,
as always, Sean, it is a pleasure. I will always, if I am here, I will always answer. Well, you may have to message me 3 or 4 times, but I'll always answer eventually.
I'll always read your message. There you go.
I'll always read your message, then ignore it. Sean usually has to try. He tries text, then it goes to Twitter, and then I get an email, and he gets me on one of them.
Exactly. I am persistent, if nothing else. Yes. Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. I really, really do appreciate it. Thank you for putting the likes up to nearly 70 as well. I really appreciate that hugely. Please do hit that like button on the way if you haven't already, because it does help the YouTube algorithm, and we like to keep the YouTube algorithm nice and fluffy, don't we? Happy fluffy in the corner. You don't want to see a cornered algorithm that's hungry for likes, frankly. So yes, get down there. Excellent. Have a great weekend, everybody. See you next time on Geeksvana Live.